Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the two-time award-winning Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Jen Peeples.
Hi, how you doing?
Very good, thanks. You may notice today that Jen and I are wearing matching shirts.
Yeah.
She's got the dress print t-shirt, and I have the tuxedo print t-shirt. Now, there's two reasons for that. One of them is that it says, I want to be formal, but I'm here to party. And the other one is that if you could get a close look at this sleeve, which you probably can't, but don't worry about it, it would say that
there you go.
For the second year in a row, we are the best goddamned public access TV show in Austin, according to the readers of the Austin Chronicle and viewers like you. And don't worry about the shirt, because I have a bigger version right here, if you can get that real quick. Or not. Yeah, hey, look at that. Look at that. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Okay. Producer Shelley and I went to this very nice banquet where there were a lot of other cool, accomplished people throughout Austin and a lot of really good restaurants which were giving free food, so hey. And booze, don't forget the booze. Today is Sunday, October 23rd, 2011. We are a live call-in public access atheist television show based in Austin, Texas, dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We are also available through live streaming video at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is atheist-experience.com. The Atheist Experience is sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit organization which you can find at atheist-community.org. And you can provide feedback by commenting on the now official show blog, I guess, which is at freethoughtblogs.com/AXP. I gotta rewrite my intro now.
Yeah.
You can also email us at tv@atheist-community.org. Check out our other regular show, The Nonprofits, where we've recently uploaded a new Gorilla episode starring me, Linnea, and Dean Jones. Just don't be looking for a whole lot of other new episodes in the next few weeks. There's a couple of weddings coming up. It's going to be a busy month, so things will probably pick up again in mid-November. There also will not be another Atheist Experience next weekend because there are no longer any Atheist Experiences airing or any other program in this studio on the 5th Sunday of the month, which next week is. If you enjoy the show today and you're in Austin, please come to join us for dinner after the show, beginning around 6 at El Arroyo on 1624 West 5th Street in Austin. And that's it.
All right, great.
What's going on?
Well, not too much.
Okay.
I actually was listening to Morning Joe.
I did not mention Godless Bitches.
Yes.
It's still not.
How
I even
could you?
had it in bold right there.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, Godless Bitches. Our other great new podcast, which airs on Monday nights. I don't think it's live, right?
No, it's not live.
It's not live, but check for it Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
And you guys have cranked out a whole bunch of great episodes already, and you're going strong.
Yeah, I think there will not be one this Monday, probably not the following Monday as well, because there's some weddings coming up.
Yeah, so I've heard.
So, yeah.
Okay. You want to go straight to callers or what?
Yeah, actually I had a little note here about an episode on a segment on Morning Joe that aired, I believe it was either Thursday or Friday morning. Can't remember which now.
It's Joe Scarborough's Fox News show? Or
No,
it's
MSNBC.
Okay.
Yeah, MSNBC. So anyway,
it seems like you should be on Fox sometimes.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Anyway, in this show, there was a report of a study on child abuse that was done. It compared child abuse rates in the U.S. to other Western countries. It turns out the child abuse rates in the U.S. are dramatically higher than they are in other countries. And as a comparison, the rate in the U.S. is 5 times that of the U.K. And the rate in Texas is even higher. It's almost double the U.S. national rate. And one of the things that they said is a contributor to this, a big contributor, is the number of very young women who are having unplanned pregnancies and then giving birth to these children who are unplanned. And there's very few social services available to young mothers like this, and they don't have a lot of personal resources available to take care of a child this young. Most of the abuse cases, most of the child deaths occur in children under the age of 5. The reason I bring this up is because this is an example of how religiously inspired social policies can contribute to a problem without ever solving it. When you do something like defund Planned Parenthood, you remove one of the organizations whose primary goal is to make sure that children who are born in this country are born as part of a planned addition to a family and not as an accident. So this is one of the disastrous effects of allowing theocrats to dictate social policy. Here we are actually exacerbating a problem. And so that's just the point I wanted to make on a social issue here. So do we
yeah, definitely problematic. All right, we're going to start with Sam in Pine Island, Minnesota.
All right.
Sam, are you there?
Yeah.
Hi.
Is this Russell?
This is Russell. What's up?
So I want to know, like, why, if you have, like, a good reason to not believe in a God, or is it just that you don't have evidence?
Well, I mean, generally not having evidence is a good reason not to believe in something. I mean, it's the same reason that we don't believe in UFOs or unicorns or fairies. It's not that there couldn't be those things. It's just that in order to start believing in something, you generally need good evidence.
Okay, I would agree with that, but so then how would you assume everything came into existence?
I wouldn't assume everything came into existence. I start by observing that things in fact exist, and then we start investigating exactly where the evidence leads. I mean, there's no need to prove the fact that stuff exists, right?
Correct.
Right. So, I mean, if you're trying to test a hypothesis like, well, there is an infinitely powerful being in another dimension who speaks words and makes these things appear, then you would try to come up with, like, observations that could support that. And if you don't find that sort of thing, then you would abandon that hypothesis and look for something else. So, I mean, is this God idea testable is one question.
Well, it is, in the sense that if I'm a Bible-believing Christian,
right.
Jesus rising, all that, I would believe there's evidence for that.
Okay.
Even though you can't see that it happened, there's still that evidence, I think.
Such as?
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's really accurate. I mean, everything it says is accurate, at least as what we found in science thus far.
Such as?
What's accurate, and what do you think supports your claim?
Like, I think in Isaiah, that's Old Testament,
okay.
There's a verse describing just a simple thing, how the earth is round. And before that wasn't generally thought. They thought it was flat.
Okay, look, anybody who stood on a high mountain could easily observe that the earth had a circular shape.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, nobody would ever say that every single sentence in the Bible is false. And by the way, there are other verses people point to as indications that they didn't know the earth was spherical. But
right.
But regardless of that, it could say right there the earth is a sphere, and that wouldn't be any evidence for God. It would just be evidence that they got something right.
I just think it's evidence that shows it's accurate, though. And there's many more.
No, but what Russell is saying is, even if they got the one thing accurate, it doesn't mean that everything else in there is accurate.
Well, there's a lot of things in there that are accurate. And if you find a lot of things that are
so far
accurate,
you haven't said anything that blows my socks off. Is there something about God that can be pointed to as definitely accurate?
Well, okay, before Jesus got arrested, it described him as sweating blood. That's an actual medical term, disease type thing that's happened today.
So the people who sweat blood today as a medical term are
it's
Jesus?
rare, but it actually, and I think that's just one example of many that shows it can be accurate.
Okay, even if that claim
Yeah.
were true, how does that prove anything about the divinity of Jesus or any of the truth of any of the other things?
It just shows that the scriptures itself are accurate. If you can
No,
find
it actually
one-
It
doesn't.
shows that the scriptures contain at least some accurate sentences.
Okay.
It doesn't
Or
show
that
that the scriptures
established.
as a whole are accurate.
Or that it contains a claim that could be plausible if you could demonstrate that, first of all, Jesus was an historical person and he had this medical condition that you claim causes people to sweat blood.
FDA.
And you haven't demonstrated either of those.
Oh, then.
Right. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also contains sentences which are accurate. But, I mean, you know, there are some things about space, it says, that are not completely silly. But that doesn't mean that any of the other stuff happened.
But then how do you explain, like, archaeological discoveries they found about the Bible that also show accuracy?
Such as?
Such as?
And Solomon, he had many chariots and stuff, and he had a metal refinery manufacturing, and they've discovered that. They've excavated that.
I'm not really familiar with that one.
Yeah,
Are you?
I'm a little skeptical of that. But even if they did discover that somebody, during the time when Solomon was supposedly, the king or whatever,
Yeah.
even if they had evidence that he had a metal refinery, that doesn't demonstrate that there's anything supernatural going on
Yeah,
here.
I mean,
Lots
was
of
it
people
a
had metal
magic
refineries.
refinery? What about this suggests that there's a God?
Well, I can do that. I can do that too. I mean, how do you explain the such? Because if you were to say that a God didn't make the universe, you would have to argue that there wouldn't be design as good a design as there is.
What makes you think there's a good design?
Good design? Oh, it has to be designed just perfect for life. I mean,
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
the thing is, and I see here it mentions that you doubt evolution, but I mean, the thing is that when most scientists have come through and looked at where the evidence leads, they point out that life tends to adapt to whatever environment it's in. And, you know, there's a lot of empty space in the universe that doesn't actually have any life in it. But the life that we have here tends to be, suited to the place that it's in. And that's not because the place was specially designed to have life in it. It's because, it's because life that didn't adapt to where it's at died. So, I mean, none of that still is magical.
Wait. Okay, you're saying that the reason the things are the way they are is because we just adapted to living on Earth.
Exactly.
But then how
Basically,
come it's the only planet that has life and no other planets adapted
We
anything
don't-
else to it?
We don't know
we
that.
don't know that it's the
As
only
far as
planet
we
on
know.
Earth
As
that
far as
has
we know.
life.
All
Okay.
that means is life is rare.
Right.
Which means that the
Well,
universe is
that's
hardly...
getting somewhere.
Okay, well, look, what that means is that the universe is hardly a perfect place for life to evolve.
It was only meant for life here.
How do you know
know?
this?
If you go biblically, I believe that's true.
Yeah,
How
but
did-
why would you go biblically to begin with? There's no
Yeah.
reason to believe that that the biblical idea about a six-day creation and all this other stuff that they
Well,
say is in any way something other than the scribblings of a bunch of Bronze Age shepherds.
No, okay, if you look at the Bible, the Earth is about 6,000 years old. If you look at evolution, it's billions, but it's not
Right.
billions.
Why not?
Why not?
Well, I could give you. I think I can give you fair evidence.
Yeah, I mean,
to show
you can give me something some creationists said, but not people who have actually done a detailed study of the science and made theories and tested them.
It's not about who it comes from. It's about the information in general.
Well, I agree with that, but the point is...
Can I just give a few things that I think it shows that it's about 6,000 years old?
Okay?
Okay.
I have here the index to creationist claims. Let me see if you've got one that isn't on here.
Okay.
I'll
Go ahead.
just start with a few.
Okay.
Okay, if you were to believe that the Earth is billions of years old, like evolution says, and that humans started millions of years ago, according to the increased rates of population, you would have 150,000 people on the Earth per square inch.
Okay.
That's true. That's true.
No, it isn't.
It isn't?
So
No.
Noah's flood had like 8 people surviving,
And if,
right?
and if you
Right?
add...
Okay,
if it-
do you
if
know when the
doubles
pyramids were supposedly built?
What's that?
Do you know when the pyramids were supposedly built according to Bishop Ussher's chronology?
Oh, well, they were the old kingdom of Egypt. They were probably, I don't know, maybe 2000 BC.
They were built about 100 years after Noah's flood was supposed to have happened. So that means that 8 people were supposedly going to have generated enough people to populate Egypt that there were all these slaves to build the pyramids. Those 8 guys must have been pretty busy, right?
Oh, no, okay, first off, if the Earth is 6,000 years old, it fits perfectly with 6 billion people.
It
No,
doesn't,
it doesn't.
fit perfectly.
Yeah, because about 150 years, the population doubles, and if you keep that
The
average
population
pace...
No, it
doesn't like consistently, reliably double every 150
Okay, but
years.
if you were
What
to believe
happens
in-
is that people survive at variable rates. Sometimes the population is flat because there's a lot of people dying off.
Okay, was it flat for 3 million years, according
Yes.
to evolution?
What?
Actually, the
you
rate of
believe-
population
On
growth.
an exponential scale,
Yeah,
yes,
the
it's
rate of
pretty flat.
population growth was very, very small
I can't read that much.
for
sorry.
a long period of time. So.
Oh, if you want to believe 3 million years, be my guest, but
No,
I don't think that's very...
and let's be clear. It's not this. It's not evolution that claims the Earth is 4.5 billion years, roughly.
That's fine, but...
It's
I just
actually
think
geology.
Geology, well, if you don't want to believe in geologic column, I mean, that's not reliable at all.
Yeah, actually, it is.
You believe that... So you believe that those layers grew over millions of years?
No, they didn't grow over millions of years.
The sediment added over millions of years.
I believe what the geologists claim happened.
Is that what
Okay.
you... Well, is that what you
So
think
what
that-
you're telling us is that the Bible is reliable as long as we're willing to dismiss all of science in order to get there.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying... It seems
I
like-
mean, you don't seem to be particularly interested in what... I mean, what you're basically saying is what one person says is pretty much as good as what another person says. It doesn't matter how much study they've done. It doesn't matter how much the base science supports them. If it disagrees with the Bible, then it's got to be wrong by default.
I think if you show that the Earth is 6,000 years old, like the Bible would indicate, I think that show that it's accurate.
Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah,
Well,
good luck.
I have more claims.
All right,
Well, go ahead.
Okay.
next.
The universe, the galaxies have their spiral shape. Can we agree on that?
Hang on, I
Some
got
of them do,
Galaxy
yeah.
Spiral right here. That's CE 380.
And if the universe is over 10,000 years old, they wouldn't have those spiral tails. Because
Spiral arms are density waves, which, like sound in air, travel through the galaxy's disk, causing a piling up of stars and gas at the crest of the waves. In some galaxies, the central bulge reflects the wave, giving rise to a giant standing spiral wave with a uniform rotation and a lifetime of about 1 or 2 billion years. The causes of the density waves are still not known, but there are many possibilities. Tidal effects from a neighboring galaxy probably cause some of them. The spiral pattern is energetically favorable. Spiral configurations develop spontaneously in computer simulations based on gravitational dynamics.
Okay.
I mean, this stuff you're saying is not like news to scientists in general. These aren't things that a bunch of that a bunch of biblical scholars came up with and
No, but there's a
stumped
bunch
people.
of... But there's... You act like there's only scientists that... The scientists that we have now, none of them are Christians.
No, I'm not
No,
saying
some
none
of-
of them are Christians.
Some of them are Christians, and they disagree with what you say.
Right. I mean, the Christians that
there's some that
study
agree
this
with what I
stuff in
say.
depth generally don't stay like young Earth creationists. Some of them are old Earth creationists, but I mean, there is no real scientific support for the idea that the Earth is young. I mean,
Yeah.
no,
No, there actually isn't.
really.
Okay. Okay, you're familiar with carbon dating at all?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay. It
And
can only be measured
it's
up to, I would say,
accurate
about...
to a limited amount of time in the past, yes. There are other methods of radiometric dating that are accurate to longer periods.
But in the lowest layers of the geologic column, why can we still date it at carbon dating, period?
Because that's a misapplication. People are taking things which are older than carbon dating is good for, and misapplying it and coming up with the numbers that they see and pretending that this is a big disaster for science.
You don't understand. If you can still measure carbon in it, and then that means that it's less than millions of years old. It can only be maximum 80,000.
There's this thing called a half-life. The carbon never completely disappears.
No, but they can't measure it after 4 or 5 half-lives.
You understand that there's different forms of carbon, right?
Yeah, I know they date things, potassium, argon, radiometric, etc., but none of those work either.
Yeah, they actually do. And the cool thing about these things is that when you start dating things with the appropriate radiometric tool, they all converge on the same answer. And when you have multiple lines of evidence converging on the same answer, then proposing another absurdly out-of-range answer is just ridiculous.
Absurdly out-of-range answer?
Yeah, like 6,000 years.
That's... Okay, here's some dates for radiometric.
Okay.
Let's see. This is Mount Etna. The rock they used is basalt. The date known was 21,000 years. It measured 25 million. I wouldn't say that's accurate.
Well, where are you getting this?
That you could use that as a source right there, but
I'm sorry. What?
Where are you
Mount
getting
what?
Mount Etna?
Can you spell that?
Mount Etna.
Can you spell that?
E-T-N-A. Mount E-T-N-A.
Okay.
What about it?
The date they've measured with radiometric dating on basalt rock.
Who did the measurement?
What's that?
Who did the measurement?
I just have the dates. I could find that, but I don't have it on me right now.
Okay.
But it was measured.
Who's reporting this?
I'm sure I can tell you that, but I'm sure if you look that up, that's there because that's the source. But I got that from John Morris.
Okay.
He's a creationist.
Who's a young Earth creationist? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and if you want, I have a few more.
Well, I mean, why would we be interested in rehashing creationist claims over and over again?
So why would you believe that dating if it's off by 25 million years? Why would you believe it?
The question is, you've got creationists who are going out and using inappropriate dating techniques.
Whoa! How do you know this? How can you assume it's inappropriate?
Because, to my knowledge...
Where are the published papers, the mainstream peer-reviewed scientific papers, that say that this is a serious flaw in the carbon in the radiometric dating?
Well, you can check him up. He cites everything he shows.
I know.
Things, but there's a difference. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm stepping on you.
No, John Morris. I mean, he's been exposed as basically a guy who really doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to radiometric dating. He makes a lot of claims. He can't back it up. He doesn't have the credentials. If he had the credentials, he'd be published in mainstream publications. And believe me, if he found a flaw in radiometric dating that caused
there's assumptions.
dating,
even if those
no.
Okay.
If he found a flaw in radiometric dating that was this significant, he would be famous for it.
And not among creationist circles.
Exactly.
I mean, actually, among scientists.
So my question is, why are you citing a guy who does not have the credentials to actually be regarded as any kind of authority in this area?
But that doesn't mean those dates are wrong.
Yeah, actually it
does. Have a
does.
credential. It does. You can prove that those dates are wrong.
No. It's not because he lacks his credentials. It's because he's wrong.
You know that date off the top of your head?
Do I know what off the top of my head?
It
No.
comes back full circle to the first thing you asked, which is why not believe in a God? And I said that the default is to be skeptical of stuff until there's evidence provided that a thing is true. We don't. If we got some guy off the street who says that my primary goal is to advance biblical truth, and then he makes a bunch of claims which run counter to the prevailing science. No, I don't have the information right now to say whether he's wrong. I'm just saying that you need that. The burden of proof is on his side. He needs to bring the evidence and get it peer reviewed so that people who are qualified, which is not like you, me, and Jen, but people who actually are able to evaluate the scientific evidence with a background in studying this stuff, can accept or reject it. And the fact that it's not in peer-reviewed scientific journals is a major issue that means that we don't have to bother worrying about it that much.
Still, dating or not, it still doesn't matter, because when God made everything, He made it with age.
How do you know?
Okay, take Adam and Eve.
Yeah?
When He made them, they weren't babies, were they?
You know, I don't believe that Adam and Eve exist, right?
Oh, can you hear my point out for a second?
No, you're saying that this is something that could have happened. I understand the Adam and Eve argument. I'm saying, how do you know it did happen that way?
Well, I believe the biblical creation.
All right, so in the end, we're not talking about arguments that prove that God exists. We're not talking about evidence. We're talking about accepting your beliefs as they are.
No, okay, here's my number one evidence that God exists.
Okay.
I believe that, and I can give you...
This is going to have to be the last one because we got to move on to other callers.
Okay, but I believe that the universe is so accurately designed, you can't deny a creator.
We've already been over that one.
We just talked about that.
Okay, thanks for calling. What's next? Sorry, did you have something you were pulling up? Or,
no, I was just...
to Anthony in Los Angeles.
Yeah, let's just go on to Anthony in Los Angeles.
All right. Anthony in Los Angeles, hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey,
good.
Thanks for waiting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Can you hear me?
I'm a very, very big fan of the show. I've been watching you guys for a couple months now, and you guys have really, I guess, opened my eyes to a lot of the arguments that were, I guess, on your show, pertaining to the existence of God, which helped me to sort of make that transition to atheism.
Oh, well, good. Thanks.
Well, I just want to call and thank you guys. But I also have a question about religious family members and friends.
Okay.
You see, I got into atheism not so long ago, probably a couple months ago. But I was already at that crossroads. And, but I still have my, you still have your family and friends, but they always try to win you back, I guess, to back to the religious lifestyle. But I already made the decision based on just evidence, lack of evidence, to God. I'm not one of those atheists that has chosen to become an atheist based on emotion because I was mad at God. It's basically
there really aren't that many people who do.
Yeah, well, there are some, that they do believe in God, and then they, something bad happens, and then they blame God for, for doing whatever it is bad that happens to their life. And then they become atheists, but, they transition back to the religious lifestyle. But it was basically, I became an atheist because I've always been a skeptic about other things, like UFOs, ghosts, but I never really applied that type of reasoning to God. And then when I finally did, it actually, my life makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Because I see everything realistically.
Right. And a lot of people do come to atheism through that route of just general skepticism, and then suddenly you stop giving religion a little hidey hole away from the skepticism, and it doesn't stand up.
Yeah. Well, I have a question about dealing with family members. I guess, what kinds of conversations do you guys refrain from, I guess? Because I try to refrain from certain types of conversations with my family that, I deem it inappropriate, if it's like, I guess the biggest in my family who would try to put people down because they're an atheist. Because I was going through this conversation with my brother, and he was basically, he told me this. He said, I told him, well, what's the difference between me being an atheist and me being a Buddhist? If I were to transition and become a Buddhist, what would you think of me? And then he said this. He said, well, as long as you believe in something, as if atheists don't believe in anything. It's
I believe I'll have another drink.
Yes.
How old a guy are you, Anthony?
I'm sorry?
I just want to know how old you are.
I'm 26.
Okay, so not like financially dependent on your parents in any way, which is the first thing to be scared of.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be financially dependent whether I'm a theist or whether or not I'm an atheist. I mean, the economy doesn't change if you switch, belief, I guess. But
well, I'm just asking that because if you are very dependent on your, on the family members that you're basically infuriating, then you have to be a little more careful in that situation because if you make them too mad, then, you're definitely going to have to get a little more self-supporting.
Oh, no. Actually moving on by the beginning of next week, next week, next year, hopefully, I wish it was next week, but next year I'm moving up to the university because I'm currently attending college.
Cool.
And being in college has also helped, like just with the critical thinking skills that I've attained in college,
Right. Well, here's what I think. You're an adult. They're an adult. And while the Bible does say to honor your father and mother, the reality is that the fact that people are family members does not entitle them to any more of your time and respect than any other adult person you know. I mean, they say you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. But as you get older, you can also pick whether you really want to stay friends with your family. Ideally, we'd all like to. And I think that it's good to keep those bonds up because, all else being equal, it's nice to have some people who love you and can be relied on. But if there comes a point when your family members are just jerks and unpleasant to be around, you shouldn't think too hard about what can I do not to anger them. You should think, how much do I like these people enough to hang around with them?
Yeah.
And you've got freedom of association. If you want to argue with your brother, then there's like several reasons you might do that. One is you might argue with him in front of other family members because you think they might be persuaded. Another is that you just like arguing with your brother because it's good practice for you when you deal with other theists. And the third is that you think you might actually change his mind, which I can tell you right now often does not happen. If none of these reasons apply, if you've got no particular reason to be arguing with him, then you don't have to be ashamed of just saying, look, I'm not that interested in talking to you about this.
Yeah, but I generally stay away from, I guess the theists in my family that I generally stay away from are the people who have had some sort of experience, I guess a bad experience, a drug addiction, and they sort of get better with their life, but they attribute that to religion. Generally, I stay away from conversations because if I get into a conversation with them, it's sort of like they'll find it very offensive if I go against that.
Well, yeah, sure. And part of it is that some of these, especially the 12-step based programs, convince addicts that the only way they got sober was by following this program, and the only way they stay sober is to keep following this program.
Higher power.
Yeah, and what it does is it robs them of the ability to recognize that they've actually done all the hard work to beat this addiction on their own, and they are doing all the hard work every day to stay sober. So in my mind, it's really kind of disrespectful to the people that are actually doing the work here. They're sort of giving it all up to this so-called higher power. And if you challenge that, basically they have been conditioned by these programs to react as if you're challenging their sobriety, the foundation of their sobriety. And so they're going to push back on that pretty hard. So, you know, I don't know what the answer is. In general, I try not to get into those conversations with people who are addicts and who are really invested in these 12-step programs. And part of that is because my perspective on this is that they've often replaced one addiction for another.
It's,
you know,
it's just like you said, they replace one, I guess, addiction for another. I find that religion is not necessarily the best answer in solving life's problems.
Oh, I agree.
And but there's another set of people that I tend to not even deal with because they're sort of like the type of theists that say they believe anything, but they don't give any kind of reverence or any kind of worship to the deity of their choice. It's sort of like that. Well, I believe in it, but I'm like I believe in God, but I live like hell. Basically, like those types of people, they give no recognition to this God.
Those are the kinds of people that I would probably, you know, try to sort of subtly influence, not by getting in knockdown, drag-out arguments over God, but just occasionally making sort of an offhand, jokey remark about religion being ridiculous. And there's lots of ways that religion is obviously ridiculous, even to religious people. And I've noticed, you know, I've worked in a lot of different environments, and my coworkers right now, I don't know if they're atheists or not, and I don't really care, but I feel comfortable saying something like, at lunch Friday, I said, "Hey guys, happy end of the world day again." And everybody laughed, because, you know, according to Harold Camping, the world was supposed to end again, and it didn't, and Harold Camping is ridiculous. And it doesn't matter if these people actually have some sort of slight belief in God. Anybody can see that Harold Camping is ridiculous. That's a good way to sort of, you know, take occasional jabs at religion without actually coming out and being mean to the people you're talking to and saying, you know, everything you believe is bullshit.
I could have made that whole joke with Harold Camping. I made it with my friends. I really made them laugh when I said, did you notice that Harold Camping was the only one that was raptured along with his millions of dollars? I just found that kind of weird, you know, like all these other people that are waiting for the rapture didn't get to go. I guess heaven is expensive.
Yeah.
So I guess God is like, you know, you really got to pay.
I've heard there are many palaces in the kingdom of the Lord, and you know the rent there ain't cheap.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Really
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
All right, thank you.
We have Majeed in Cypress, California. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I called last week and inquiring about...
Right, you got like 2 minutes, right?
Pardon?
You only got the last 2 minutes of the show or something, right?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard.
Oh,
okay.
Well, the thing is, I've watched... I was introduced to your show several months ago, and in the last several months I must have watched over 100 of your shows.
Oh, well, we're very flattered.
Thank you. And I find it fascinating, and I also like how you are able to, first of all, be consistent, unlike other shows I've watched, or one-person YouTube presentations on things. And I like how you have a general theoretical framework on things. Personally, I guess Matt explained to me that there is something called cultural Muslim, so I guess I would fit into that mold of a cultural Muslim.
I think he mentioned me as the cultural Jew. But,
yes, I was asking about you.
Barely
that's what I
cultural.
find fascinating, is that a person can be, and please excuse me if I interrupt, it's the voice delay.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
And I find it quite fascinating that a person can be say I'm an atheist and be of the Jewish faith, and that will be fully accepted, and they can have a normal life that they choose. Whereas, if you say you're, I will say myself, a Muslim of the, an atheist or an agnostic of the Muslim faith, then all these bells and whistles start ringing. Well, then you're not a Muslim to begin with. Well,
what do you? I mean,
go ahead.
Americans are idiots. We generally don't understand stuff that we don't come in much contact with. And what do you do as a cultural Muslim? I mean, what is it about the background that interests you?
Well, I was born into it. As I understand, both of you are persons of science and mathematics.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, my view on things are, as they say in math, when you take the derivative of something that approaches infinity, you get so close. So that's the thing. Religion just comes so close in trying to explain God, but it doesn't, so that's where it fails.
Well, of course
on the
it
other
doesn't,
hand,
because there is no God.
Pardon?
Of course there isn't, because there is no God.
Right, but then on the other hand, me personally, without sounding like an apologist or a polemic or of any sort, because I really believe, again, that they're just all the religions are one big compilation or compilations of many things that were happening at the time all over the world. So something, so I'm pretty happy with things, but I noticed that it's starting to become an issue for both maybe Muslims and Christians, that based on my beliefs. Now, then you ask a Muslim, well, why am I not a Muslim? Or you ask a Christian, why am I a Christian? Why am I not a Muslim? And some people say, well, no, you're just a moderate Muslim. You're not a Muslim. Well, what is a Muslim to you? So when I flip the argument and say, yes, but there are actually Middle Eastern Christians that belong to the Orthodox Church that came way before Darby, that belong to the Catholic Church. And there are actually Ethiopians from the Tawahidu Church that was established, or the Coptic Church, that was established maybe 60, 80 years after the crucifixion. So you're denying that all these are Christians? So they have this thing that, well, we're the Christians. They're not. They're called Coptic. They're called... So it becomes a matter of semantics and definitions. To them, I personally don't believe. I believe. Maybe I do believe that we are part of a process. We're going to die. If there's a God, I don't know if heaven or hell are part of the equation. Do I believe that something cannot come from nothing? I don't know. I mean, I do believe it had to begin somewhere, from someone or something or a group of gods. But religion is absolutely not what it has to do with it.
Well, I don't think that words have mystical power to create things. The way that you choose to define and use a word is largely a matter of personal taste. No matter what internet grammar Nazis say, the way that you use a word is often just however you feel like using it. And if you like using the word Muslim to describe yourself, and you don't mind having to constantly explain that doesn't mean you believe in Allah or cutting off people's heads or whatever particular unrepresentative sects, in your opinion, do, then go for it. The word, I mean, I call myself a Jew, but even by cultural Jew standards, I'm really, really lax. So... it's just a word, like atheism or religion, where we wind up getting in arguments a lot about what those really mean, and what matters more, I think, is how you feel comfortable identifying yourself. I'm not sure I'm getting anywhere with this.
No. I mean, on the flip side of the argument, it could be that there's another person that you're trying to talk to, and he says, aha. But see, it's because you haven't heard the word that's why you are as you are in a Muslim. For example.
When arguments turn to what words mean, I usually really quickly jump to I couldn't care less. Because
I actually have a better excuse, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I tell them, you know what? If you read the book of Joshua, where I am originally from, is mentioned there, and I can tell you my ancestors who wrote that, who wrote that. That's not what they meant, and you're off the mark. And that will just throw them off right then and there. And I found it to be very effective, sadly.
Okay.
Okay.
So now my second question to you is how I mean, you know, my calling in or other people at work or society claiming, I mean, you know, firmly adamant about talking atheism is one thing, but when you're on TV and you talk to people, how has this impacted your life? And the reason I'm asking is, and how do you go on about doing it? How do you go on about putting your information and your theoretical framework together? Because I'm interested in something like that, you know, and maybe trying, not really be a pioneer, but, you know, I mean, just being able to say it in a consistent manner. So how has this impacted your life?
I think we've got your question.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off too fast, but we've got
go
like 12 minutes left in the show. So,
Yeah.
Jen?
Well, so if I understand this, you want to know how has being publicly atheist affected my life? Is that?
Yes, and on TV and, you know, all over the place about it. I mean, it can't be similar to somebody. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, really not. It really hasn't that much. I mean, it never comes up at work. I work in an industry where religion just, I mean, it's
engineering.
Basically, yeah, I'm an engineer, and it's just, you know, we don't have faith-based engineering, so it's not, you know.
6,000-year-old engineering.
That's right, yeah. And if it's not in the Bible, we don't do so, you know, it just never comes up. So...
And all wheels are hexagonal.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, professionally it doesn't affect me at all. And personally, if someone wants to talk about that, that's fine. I don't usually, you know, lead in with that. I mean, if you go to my Twitter account or my Facebook page, I introduce myself as the atheist lesbian mother, but I don't actually introduce myself as that person in person.
Mm-hmm.
So it really hasn't impacted my life much at all.
Okay. Do you get,
I mean,
like, maybe you or Mr. Russell get maybe dirty looks in society, or like...
no, mostly not. I mean, you have to understand that you may like watching our show a lot, but this is not like, you know, Game of Thrones or anything. It's not seen by millions of households across the country.
Yeah.
You know, what I've observed in my own experience, and many other people I know who didn't want to be outed as atheists but were, is that the easier you make yourself to Google, the more likely it is that somebody will Google you and find out stuff that you might not want to know. But if, you know, your choices are either shut up and stay closeted in this internet age, or just live with it and handle the cases as they come up. And I personally find that when people discover what I do, even if they don't agree with me, I get more positive reactions than negative ones. Like, that's interesting. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, it depends. People think that, you know, rightly or wrongly, they often feel that Muslims are scary. And this could be a chance to build bridges or talk about what the cultural interest is to you. And maybe, you know, just foster understanding among human beings without changing their mind.
True. But I guess in my case, my issue would not be with maybe a person of the Jewish faith or of a Christian faith. My issue would be with the Muslims and how they might go after me. That's my biggest fear, to be honest with you, because debate is virtually non-existent.
Well, I mean, are you afraid they're gonna pull a Salman Rushdie on you? You know, declare a fatwa and have people all over the world seeking your head?
Maybe, but on the other hand, I know I would cause maybe more damage to my family and their friends and my sisters and my brothers and their families, and some are spiritual, some are not.
This is a question that you should be asking Ayaan Hirsi Ali. I think I've got that name right. Yeah, she is an ex-Muslim activist, and I think you should check out what she's up to and see how she deals with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's A-Y-A-N and Hirsi Ali.
A-Y-A-N, yeah.
Yeah, A-A-N.
So
you'll find her.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And thank you.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We got 8 minutes left till the show officially ends, and looks like we'll still have some people on the line at that point. So hang on. We'll talk to you briefly before we head off for dinner at El Arroyo on 5th Street in downtown Austin.
That's right. Okay. Let's go to...
All right. Spence in Houston, Texas. Are you there?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Good.
Fine, thanks.
Well, let me just say, I've been watching your program. I find it very interesting. I do celebrate your opinions and your right to believe what you want to believe in.
Thank you. Back at you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do have some exceptions, though. Like I said, I've been watching your program, and there seems to be a lot of question about Christian morality, the morality of the Bible. And I guess my question for you as an atheist is, do you believe that atheists have not committed any morality in the world? And if so, could you give me some definitions of some
No, we don't
examples
believe
of that
that.
kind of
Next
immorality?
Yeah.
No, we don't believe that. Next question.
Okay, well, let me, if you don't mind me give you an example.
Okay.
For example, now, I will concede that religion is a human, what's what I'm looking for, excuse me, institution, okay?
Okay.
And humans
And
aren't
so is God.
fallible by nature. Of course, and there's going to be problems with immorality in any kind of human institution. And I think that you would probably agree that communism was a purely atheistic organization in politics.
Not exactly.
No.
Now, I think I can provide you a number of quotes to substantiate that.
I mean, communism didn't have a supernatural God, but it also promoted a lot of stuff that we also disagree with, which was basically the worship of the state as providing everything, and a sort of deific status to its leaders. I'm not saying that makes it a theistic enterprise. I'm just saying that although it's technically atheist in the sense that it doesn't have any gods, that doesn't mean that everything every atheist says is something that we think is a good idea.
Well, and I would agree with that. And I would think you probably agree that every Christian is not necessarily a crusader.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No one would ever claim that.
Every philosophy is my point.
Right?
Right.
But my question is, why do you spend so much time focusing on Christianity and attacking Christianity within the politics of our country, the limiting of God and in public access, etc.?
Well, that's primarily because it's the Christians who are trying to insert God into the public square.
Well, I would disagree that it's always been there since the forming of this country.
Since the country was actually formed as a secular state, I would disagree with that.
I think you're partly right there. We're a secular society in the government itself, but it was based upon Christian Judeo principles.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, it really wasn't.
It absolutely was not formed based on Judeo-Christian principles.
Okay, well, if you go to the Supreme Court and you look at the Ten Commandments in the establishment of that building,
You'll
then
also
how can you deny
see
that reality?
You'll also see the Code of Hammurabi. Does that mean that it's based on ancient Babylonian society?
Well, I think that our forefathers were very interested in anything that was deity.
Sure, they were interested in it, although, I mean, I don't know what you mean in the case of Hammurabi, because that's not based on a deity.
No, I'm not that familiar with that particular philosophy.
Yeah, that's a much older set of laws that greatly predates the Old Testament and already says things like what the punishment should be if you kill people.
Yeah.
But
there's like I said, there's Jewish heritage as well within our founding fathers' philosophy. So I'm not saying that's Christianity per se.
Yeah, nobody's saying that they're not influenced by that, but I'm just saying that they did not in any way set it up as a Christian nation. They didn't set up a Christian government, and people are people. But it explicitly lays out that there's going to be no
government as well.
There's going to be no entanglement between the religion and the government.
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true, because you're saying religion. I'm speaking about a faith and a belief system of morals. Well, because religion is an establishment and faith is completely different than religion. I don't believe in religion.
Okay,
So I
but
do
what's
believe
this
in God,
faith
and I
thing?
do
Because
believe in
I
moral
don't believe in
principles of life.
faith.
Well, that's, like I said, that's fine. So
Okay.
why attack faith as much as you do if you don't have any belief in anything?
Because
why attack it
because
so
faith in
vehemently?
general, when we're talking about religious faith, is generally the willingness to believe stuff without evidence. Is that fair?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that we didn't believe in probably 2,000 years ago without evidence, but that didn't make it necessarily not true.
Right, but it
So I
didn't.
can
A lot of
argue that
negatives.
point.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
there might have been things that we didn't believe a few hundred years ago because we didn't have evidence that those things turned out to be true, but we were correct to not believe in those things until evidence was presented.
Well, I think you still have to maintain an open mind, is my point.
Sure, you can
Sure,
maintain
but-
an open mind, but that doesn't mean that.
This is wrong,
But that
there's no
doesn't
proof.
mean that you base laws around things that are unprovable and say that everybody has to go this way.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but at the same
Okay.
time, I mean, we can argue about science all day long. I mean,
Yeah.
the reality is science does contradict itself. There are
No, science corrects
Hold on
itself.
a second. Let me finish my train of thought, if you don't mind. Science does not always agree with each other.
Okay.
Everybody knows this for a fact. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
part of
Look
the
through
way that
history.
science operates.
Yes, and so what's true today is not necessarily going to be true tomorrow.
No,
Just as it
what's
was for
actually
our
true?
forefathers.
What's actually true today is always going to be true. It's whether we correctly perceive that the true things are true that changes. And the thing is that people are fallible, and so we always acknowledge that we're going to be wrong about a number of things at any given time. The question is, when you discover that you've been wrong, what do you do about it? One option, which I think is the way that a faith would argue, is to throw out any opposing data and say that no matter what new facts I learn, I will always retain the beliefs that I have now, because to do otherwise would be blasphemous. The other is that when you learn when you learn new things, then you decide to be intellectually honest about it, and in light of the new stuff that you've learned, then you change your model of the world to fit what the facts are that you know. What's true
Well, I don't
doesn't
think anybody would
change.
disagree with that. I think the problem that I'm addressing
You gotta
with
wrap
the
up, though.
atheists... Okay, I'll make it real quick.
Okay,
The atheists
last word.
that I'm seeing here today on your show is a lot of attack on the Christian faith when it should be more an open dialogue.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you for calling in, and we'll
Thank you for your time.
certainly continue to discuss that. And that's our show. See you at El Arroyo. Bye, everyone, from the award-winning Atheist Experience. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.